I'd like to start our lesson off with a review of exponents. Yes, we've talked about exponents before, but there's a little more to it than we've done. So let's delve right in. Exponents. You can use exponents to show repeated multiplication, and it has two parts. It has the base, which is the larger number, and it has the exponent, which is the small number here. So here we have the exponent, and here we have the base. Together, it's called a power, the two parts together. In this first example, the base, 3, is used as a factor, meaning multiply it by itself 4 times. So we start off with the exponential form, 3 to the 4th power. We can then write it in expanded form. That's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And then when we multiply it all out to get the standard number or standard form, which is just the number itself, we get 81. Now we should be able to read powers. We said it has two parts, the base and the exponent. I have 6 to the first power. Easy enough. 4 to the second power has a second name. It also is called 4 squared. 5 to the third power, 5 cubed. So the second power and third power have special names. Then I can use any other. 3 to the fourth, 2 to the sixth, 10 to the fifth. It's read just as that. The only two unique parts are the squared and the cubed. So let's look at some rewriting. We'll take expanded form to exponential form to standard form. Expanded form, I'm taking this base, again that's the factor, and I'm multiplying it by itself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So then I multiply this out. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2, 8. 8 times 2, 16. 16 times 2, 32. 32 times 2 is 64. These are 3 ways that I can write 64. Our next example, I have 5 times 5 times 5, which is 5 to the third power, and hopefully you know that's also read 5 cubed. 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 times 5. Multiply that out. So the standard form would be 125. Next one, it's 9 times 9, which is 9 to the second power, or 9 squared, which just gives us 81. And we have 3 as our base. Our exponent will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to multiply that out. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81, and 81 times 3 is 243. You're just multiplying it out. Now the last one's a little bit different. Since we're talking about algebra, I threw in some variables, and there are 2 bases in this case. There's base 2, which I have 1, 2, 3 factors of, and there's base x, which there are 2. And I could just simplify that as 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times x to the second power. I can evaluate that if I told you what the value of x was. Here I have one more that has variables, and this time I have 3 separate bases. I have 3 to the third power. I have just one x. I don't need to write the first power. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 y's. Y to the fourth power. If I simplify that, I could only multiply out the numerical base. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3, 27. X, y to the fourth. So you see that we can expand what we know about exponents to something a little more involved. Let's look at this next one. Again, I'm noticing different bases. I have the base 2, and there are 1, 2, 3 of those. I have base 5, and there are 2. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, x to the fourth, and then I have y's, 1, 2. I can now simplify this a little bit further, and I can get this as 8 times 25, and I can multiply that out, and we'll see that we get 200 x to the fourth and y to the second. So we're just simplifying. The next one has negatives, so when I see negatives and they're in parentheses, I'm just going to get negative 2 in parentheses cubed, which means my final answer here will be a negative 8. And I threw in one more just as a practice. I've got negative 5, and I have a's and b's. So I have a to the 1, 2, 3 power, third power, which is a cubed, and b squared. And there's my final answer. Okay, can't simplify that any further. Now we can simplify and use order of operations involving exponents, and there are a few important rules. Work inside the grouping symbols first. Simplify any terms with exponents. Then we follow that left to right rule of PEMDAS, multiply and divide, and add, subtract left to right. So following these steps, I'm going to do what's in parentheses first. It gives me 4 times 5 squared. Well, exponents come before multiplication, so I'm going to get 4 times 5 times 5, which is 25, which leaves me with 100. So we want to be able to use what we know from prior lessons. We talked about order of operations, and now we're going to apply that to working with the exponents in a little more detail. Let's try these two. Let's start with the one on the left. I see a lot happening here. I see multiplication, I see addition, and I see exponents. Well, thinking to PEMDAS, I'm going to go with those exponents first. So I'm going to have 2 times, well, 5 squared is 25, plus 4 times, well, negative 3 cubed. That's negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, which is going to give me a negative 27. All right, left to right rule. 2 times 25 is 50. Adding comes last, so I'm going to get 4 times this negative 27, which gives me a negative 108. You can use paper and pencil to get that answer. And then I'm going to do my final step, and I see that I have unlike signs to add, so I'm going to know that my answer will be a negative 58. Step-by-step process. All right, pause and try this one, and then check back and see how you did. In this problem, I have I have a lot happening again, so I'm going to just follow the rules, and I'm just going to bring this down and do what's in parentheses first. Notice in parentheses, I have a power. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 5 is 20. So I simplified that grouping. Now I have this 4 to the third power. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. Minus 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 20. Now you think about what to do. You're going to use your left to right rule as always. You're going to get 56 plus 20 and add and get 76. How did you do on that problem? Last thing I want to look at, just very briefly, and we'll go into this a little more practice next class, is evaluating. In this problem, I'm going to substitute in the value of x with 5. Now remember, this is 3 times x squared minus 2. So I'm going to get 3 times 5 squared minus 2. And I'll simplify that power. I'll multiply. And lastly, I'll subtract. Let's see that again. Remember, this first expression is not negative 4 times 2, but it's negative 4 times 2 to the third power. This is very critical in simplifying when you're evaluating. This is negative 4 times 8 plus 5. Negative 4 times 8 is negative 32, and then you add 5. Signs are unlike, so I get a negative 27. You see, all the things that we learned in previous chapters are coming back and being reviewed and added to them. And that's all we have for today.